Welcome to Cardinals Hub 365. I'm Stefan Caray, joined by Mike Claiborne here. Of course, Cardinals Hub 365 is powered by Gray Bar, and our whole content is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. It's been a whole lot of fun to be a Cardinals fan over the last week or so. Last night, defeating the Houston Astros 8-3. A lot of changes from what we saw just a couple of days ago, Mike, but it has been a whole lot more fun to take in what this team is doing, both on the offensive and pitching side of the baseball.
No, it really has. Maybe they just ought to stay at home for the rest of the season. I mean, when you think about some of the pitchers they faced this past week, you go back to Paul Skeens, you deal with Aaron Nola, you deal with Sean Wheeler, and last night, Valdez. And the one guy who I was most impressed with was the pitcher on Saturday, the lefty for Philadelphia. But overall, I'm not sure if I've seen this sort of pitching stacked up against the Cardinals with three different teams. I don't recall seeing that and seeing the Cardinals have the success that they've had with them.
No, I certainly agree with you on that point. They're beating the top end of the rotation starters, and they're making them really work hard. I think over those four starts that you just mentioned with Wheeler, Skeens, Nola, and Valdez, those pitchers have accumulated just 21 innings, and the Cardinals have gotten them up and out of the game relatively quickly. Now, it's a matter of stacking wins. Tonight, you have a chance to win three in a row. That'll be the first time since the opening series against the Minnesota Twins. But all signs point to the Cardinals putting it together. Their bats had 14 hits last night. They scored 8 runs. They continue to be one of the hottest offenses in baseball. As long as they can get that pitching going, I think that this team can really be competitive moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree with you. When you think about last year, pitching was okay. The offense wasn't there, but so far this year, you've had multiple games where you've had more than 10 hits, and it comes from everyone. It's not one person carrying the load. I'm trying to figure out which is going to give in first, but in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy both sides of this ledger because you touched on it. They face good guys and they've done well, and it just seems like, Stefan, that we're like only a little less than 3 weeks into the season, but man, it feels like it's almost 2 months we've gone through because of the competition level.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they're playing playoff contenders every single week. It seems like they haven't had any rest in the early part of their schedule. You look at Minnesota, a team that people anticipated winning the AL Central Division. They've struggled a little bit, but the Angels have been far exceeding expectations. Then you have the Pirates, the Mets coming up, of course, for the Cardinals, the Astros, the Phillies. There are so many teams that the Cardinals have really had to navigate. And I think they've done a nice job going 8-8. Yes, would they like to have a winning record? I'm sure they would, but they have been a better team as the season has gone along. You look at the last 4 games, they've outscored opponents 18-7. They're 3-1 in those games. But is there a date that you're looking back to where they kind of flipped the script a little bit if you're a Cardinals fan?
I would say the Skeens game, which they've had success with. Now, I know they lost the next day, but they played pretty clean baseball. And I think that's what stands out for me. They're not beating themselves. They're getting quality pitching. They're not going beyond 6th innings, and they're throwing strikes. And I think the 2-strike approach from what we saw against Paul Skeens, and it's led into this week, has been the one thing that stands out. And everybody in the order is doing it. It's not one person. If you recall, Wilson Contreras couldn't find a hit until this week, and now he seems like he's found a groove. Brendan Donovan picked up 40 points on his average last night. So it's a real collective team effort. And, at some point, somebody's going to cool off. Okay, we get that. That's part of what we call 162. But these games, man, you want to finish the end of the month in a plus column. And they have a chance to do that. Now, one of the challenges that they had last year in a 3-game series, they couldn't put a team away. They couldn't sweep them. They had very few sweeps last year. This would bode well for them to go in and get, one tonight and win the series, and then take your chances in a getaway day game tomorrow.
I agree. I mean, I want to stick with that point on Brendan Donovan. He's been so good for St. Louis, especially in the month of April and 12 April games, batting .417 with 20 hits, a home run, 8 runs batted, and 7 runs scored. He's just been getting it done all over the diamond, both offensively and defensively for the Cardinals. What have you noticed from him over the last few weeks that has been different from years past?
Good question. I asked him that last night in the post game, and he said it started to come together for him in Boston, where he just changed his stance just a hair, a little bit more upright, really having a chance to see the ball on a level plane. And he thinks that's really one of the things that kind of got him going in the right direction. Now, obviously, you want to be able to commit that to memory, hone your skill, and also adjust as pitchers try to adjust to you to see what they can get you out on. He's a great two-strike hitter. And I think he's taking full advantage of that, making some of these pitchers throw enough pitches where he sees everything they can get over for strikes. And then he just sits on a pitch and just puts wood on the ball. One of the things I've noticed about him, he's not trying to pull everything. But if you try and get him inside, he will hurt you. But when they throw the slider away, he goes the other way. It doesn't have to be a line drive. It just finds grass to land on. And that's where he's been effective, using the whole field.
And sticking with that kind of theme in Brendan Donovan, Brant Brown has been such a great addition for the Cardinals. They're ranking in the top five of virtually every offensive category. They're second in hits, second and third in runs scored, behind teams like the Yankees and the Cubs. But they're playing the majority of their games at home at Busch Stadium, which we've known to be a very pitcher-friendly park. Do you see that continuing, or do you see them cooling off a little bit?
Well, they'll cool off at some point, and then we'll find out who they are because they're going to have to push a reset button. But overall, you can't argue the approach right now. They're being selective in what they're trying to do at the plate. As the weather gets warmer, maybe they get warmer. Maybe some other guys start to get it going with a more consistent basis. But right now, man, I don't care if they're playing at home, playing on the moon, it doesn't make a difference. They're putting the ball in play. And that's something that we have been accustomed to with the consistency. As I mentioned, multiple games with at least 10 hits. And when you look up and down the order, it's not just one guy. We had a guy last night in Donovan who went 4 for 4, but there's a lot of 2-hit games, a lot of guys in that batting order. And man, once you start to have that sort of success, throw in a walk from here and there, it becomes a really full lineup that everybody's looking forward to trying to get into. And even, we see guys coming off the bench making a contribution. I ask you, Stefan, have you ever seen 3 catchers that have contributed more than what we witnessed when Herrera was healthy? You think about Pages and what he's done, and now Pozo. All 3 of these guys are catchers, and I don't think any of us thought, with the exception of maybe Herrera, that we would get this sort of productivity out of them this early.
Well, you have the best of all worlds, right? Pozo and Pages, a little bit more known for their gloves. Defensively, they've been able to control the run game, but they've
Yeah.
held their own. And I think it's kind of what you were pointing to, that consistency. When you're on a bad team and you're a hitter, you oftentimes will struggle with the team because you don't feel like you have protection in this lineup. Pages, Pozo, Herrera, with the way that everybody's hitting, they have so much comfort knowing that, hey, maybe Arenado is batting behind me, or maybe Donovan's batting in front of me. If I strike out here, somebody else will do a job. And if you're a little bit more comfortable in the box, you're going to get that job done. So Ollie Marmol is doing a nice job with the way that he's constructing his lineup every single day, but they are certainly rewarding his trust by how well they are hitting at the plate every single game.
I'm glad you brought that up about the lineup. They're the regulars are in there, okay, but he may move a guy up, he may drop a guy. He's always thinking beyond the first inning, and one of the things that I don't think he gets enough credit for is how he is able to get the matchups he's looking for later in the game, and that includes what the other team's going to bring out of the bullpen. When a team isn't struggling well or going well, you always hear about, well, they ought to drop this guy, or they ought to move this guy, or take him out of the lineup. That hasn't been the case, and I think when they're playing as well as they are, you have to give the manager some credit too.
Certainly, certainly. I think that everybody at the beginning of the season is always looking at the doomsday scenario. When the Cardinals
Mm-hmm.
dropped a couple games in Boston, the fans were not as amped up as they were after that first weekend against Minnesota. But now they're starting to see things come together a little bit, not just on the offensive side, but pitching wise. One date that I look back to, I asked you earlier if there was a date that you thought of where things started to turn around, was Eric Fetty's start, that extra inning loss against Pittsburgh where he went
Yeah.
6 innings without allowing a hit. Since that date, the Cardinals are sporting a 1.3 ERA. That's the second best in all of baseball during that stretch. So if they can pitch and they keep hitting the way that they're hitting, I think the sky's the limit for what this team can be able to do.
I would agree with you, and I'll tell you what, I'm so impressed. If you want to add another run onto that earned run average you just mentioned, I'd live with that. I
I
mean,
think everybody would. I think everybody would.
but in reality, you're going to have an injury. Somebody's going to have a flat tire along the way. Your bullpen is going to have a moment. It comes with the season. The question is, how quickly do you recover? How long does this go? Is it 3 or 4 days in a row? Or, you can't use this guy on certain days in the bullpen. All those things come into play. And, as we get deeper into the season, how will they adjust? And also, who's going to step up in the minor leagues? Who's going to be next when it comes to having somebody come up here and help this ball club? Because while we may have 26 on this current roster, there's probably another half dozen, maybe 8 players within the organization that you're going to see at some point. And you have to hope that they come up and they're able to do something that's going to be positive. You look at Pozo, he's been terrific. We see some other guys, Navarro, he's a guy that throws hard. He gave up 3 runs last night, but overall he's been so. And then there's going to be another wave of guys that may end up being starters. So a lot of good things that are going on. How far can they go? Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, it's certainly one of those things that the Cardinals fans are excited about. Quinn Matthews, of course, going on the IL a little bit with some shoulder discomfort. There are a lot of options. There's some organizational depth that maybe, I don't know if you'd agree, the Cardinals haven't had over the past few seasons that they have now. And that's a big luxury for this team. But the whole plan was a refresh, right? We want to give these guys as much runway as possible. Injuries have kind of thrown a wrench in that plan, but it's given you a look at other players like Pozo, like Thomas Sajaci, that have come up and really made an impact.
Yeah, I'm of the belief, though, this organization as a whole is maybe a year, maybe 2 years off as far as true development at every level within your organization. There's some interesting players that they have, but I don't know what that looks like 3 months from now. And I don't know what that looks like next year. And that's what as you touched on, this is sort of like a reset, replenish. And it really comes down to scouting and people who are teaching the game the best way they can to get them here to contribute as quickly as possible.
I think that that's a really good way of looking at it. A lot has changed at the minor league level for the Cardinals, not just with the players that they're having, but also with the people that are running the minor leagues now.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things shape out for the Cardinals. But of course, fans, it is a reminder that STL Sports Hub is brought to you by DraftKings, and baseball season is officially underway. It's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick Six. Think of DraftKings Pick Six as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick Six is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly on just a $5 entry. So you want to download
Gambling problem? Call
app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play. $5, get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, Claib, so we have Game 2 coming up, 6:40 tonight at Busch Stadium. It's going to be Hunter Brown for the Astros, who's had a great start to 2025, versus Eric Fetty, who had one of his best starts in recent memory his last time out. We mentioned it just a moment ago. Fetty 1-1 with a 4.2 ERA, Brown with a 2 flat ERA. You got 2 right-handers. What are you thinking tonight?
Well, you know what? Brendan Donovan might have another good night. I mean, he's facing the righty. The left-handed bats are starting to gradually come around. Victor Scott's finding a way to get on base. Lars Nootbaar trying to find a way to get on base, and sometimes it's not a hit. Maybe it may be a walk. But Hunter Brown's a pretty good pitcher. He's a guy we saw in spring training, and from when we saw him there, he seemed like he was working on a few things that he's been able to carry over into the regular season. So this might be a nice, I don't want to call it a pitcher's duel, But I'd be surprised if we have a bunch of runs scored tonight. I think people are going to have to bear down and take what they can get and turn it over to the bullpens. Houston used a couple of guys last night. The Cardinal bullpen is rather clean. So it may be another 6-inning night for Fetty. Let's hope he gets to the 6th inning. But Hunter Brown's not going to make this easy for the Cardinals.
I think that for the Cardinals and what we've seen over the last few weeks is not just the long ball, not just driving in runs with runners on first, but manufacturing runs. This
Yeah.
feels like the type of game where you're going to need to put runners on second with one or less outs, move them over and drive them in. Play a little bit of a small ball style of game. Maybe not quite Whitey ball. I know we're in a different era of Cardinals baseball than that, but that's how this team is designed to win. They don't look like a team that's going to hit 300 home runs, 200 home runs in a season,
Yeah.
but they are still a team that can put up some big offensive numbers. 60 runs in 10 games at Busch Stadium, 6 runs a game. I mean, I'll take that any day of the week. I think a lot of
Every
people
day.
would.
You know what, Chris? Well, I think you may see them be in the tops in doubles and extra base hits. I think that's a category because, a double is a difference maker in a game for a lot of reasons. Either you're putting a man in scoring position or you're scoring a man from first. So in that situation, I would be willing to go out on a limb from what I've seen so far that this team may not lead the league in home runs, but I bet they're in the conversation in top 5 as far as doubles or extra base hits.
Last night, they certainly had plenty of doubles. Arenado had a pair. Walker had one. Pedro Pajes had one. Donovan had one. Nootbaar had one. I mean, these guys are using the gaps. They're using the corners. Just finding a way to hit the baseball where the defenders aren't. And that's just the name of the game. Put the ball in play and good things happen, except for when you're grounding into inning-ending double plays, which we saw.
Well, we got that out of our system for a whole week, man. Grounding into 5 the other day. And I'd never seen it before. And I've seen a lot of baseball. I've never seen somebody grounding 5 double plays in one game. But you know what? It's out of their system. And again, let's go back to their pitcher that day. He was really good, man. He kept the Cardinals all balanced. And when you do that and you have guys lunging and swinging out of their strike zone, that's going to happen. But I predict we will not hit in the 5 double plays tonight.
I think that's
the only thing. That's the only limb I can go out on.
You think DraftKings has a prop bet for that? That the
I'm
Cardinals
sure they
will not
do.
ground into 5 double plays tonight?
I'm sure it's way back in the back because I know too many people would take the action on that. But we're seeing them take some good at bats. And let me run this by you. And you've seen some games this year, and you've seen them last year as well. Now with the shift out of play, are we going back to teams that are really still finding ways to put themselves in a defensive position? Because in just watching the Cardinals, I don't see many guys out of place as far as fielding balls, especially in the outfield. Now, Victor Scott makes a lot of difference out there with his speed, but I see Jordan Walker making plays. I've seen Lars Nootbaar making plays where they're not laying out because they got caught out of position or they got a bad jump. And the same can be said on the infield. Are we going through an adjustment now because of the fact we're comfortable in setting our own defense now that we don't have to deal with the shift?
I think it's just sort of like the pitch clock. You have a couple of years without the shift, you start getting used to it. It is now their vernacular. They're familiar with it. They don't have to readjust to any new rules. They have played this style of baseball the last couple of seasons, and they've gotten good at it. I want to continue with that point on Jordan Walker because I was just about to ask you your thoughts. He's looked like a completely different defender out there in right field. He made a tremendous catch in foul territory yesterday. I believe it was the furthest an outfielder has had to run to catch a ball. Furthest a right fielder has had to run to catch a ball that has been a successful out this season in Major League Baseball. So he's making plays that he wasn't making a few years ago, and he's also hitting the baseball with a whole lot of prejudice, is what I'll say.
Well, he has taken away the gasp, the deep breath moment when balls are hit to him. First couple of years, it was truly an adventure. This year, and it comes to hard work, man. The guy spends a lot of time in the offseason taking fly balls, and John Jay has shown him a few things where I just think the word I would describe with him in the outfield is confidence. He's waving guys off now. There was a time that if there was a ball in the gap, he would hope that somebody else would catch it, but that's not the case anymore. He's willing to go for balls. He comes in on balls extremely well. He has the best throwing arm of any outfielder out there. So he's a guy you don't want to run on. So we're seeing the Jordan Walker, the maturity continues for him. And I think the sky is certainly the limit as he continues to grow. I mean, Stephen, he's 6'6.5". He's 260, 265. I mean, he's cut up. I mean, this guy is really taking good care of himself and put some work into being a good baseball player. And I just think he's going to have a lot more fun out there.
I think his offensive success is also helping to translate into his
Yeah,
defensive
good
confidence.
point.
Because when you're going, you're going. When
Yeah.
you're a baseball player, you're a baseball player. And top to bottom, when you look at this lineup, not very many strikeouts. That was the big issue for Jordan, chasing that low and away slider. He's been as disciplined as anyone in this lineup.
Yeah, he's laid off of that pitch. And in just talking to him this in the spring, he was trying to just come to grips with, okay, I'm not going to be able to hit every pitch with some authority. So that means the pitcher is going to have to try and get him out instead of him getting himself out. And so far, I think we've seen that. Now, there's been a couple of times he was feeling for a pitch, maybe he didn't pick it up, and that's going to happen. But I really feel like in this case, he is a lot more disciplined. And again, he'll have to make some adjustments too. The teams will figure out, all right, we can't get him out with this anymore. And they'll figure out where they think he may have a blue zone, and then they'll try and go after that. But in the meantime, I'm just loving how he's adjusting and making plays. And I think he touched on it, man. Guy's not good at the play. He takes his glove to the field. And once that glove goes to the field and he's as bad in the field as he is at the plate, he can't help you.
Right, right. And he is the player that I think a lot of fans over the last few years envisioned being the face of this franchise. Mason Wynn came up last year and really showed what he was capable of, but there's no reason to believe that he, Victor Scott, and Mason Wynn can't be a new big three for the Cardinals with what they have been able to do in the small sample size of their careers.
Yeah, and you might be even to expand that a little bit. I think there's some other guys who are ready to break out in that same regard. And for our fans, it's a different look. Okay. You don't have a 70 home run guy in the order. You may have a 300 guy in the order. You're going to see guys manufacture runs. I love the ability for a base hit. They're doing the little things like that, and those are the things that are fun. I don't know about you, but I love watching guys run the bases. I love seeing if you can be thrown out. As I mentioned with Walker having one of the better arms in the outfield, Stephen, there's a lot of guys who can't throw. I'm sorry. There's a lot of outfielders who can't throw. I'm even seeing a couple of infielders who are having a hard time getting it over to first base. So if there was ever a time to run in this game, it's now. And I didn't even mention the catching and how that's really kind of deteriorated with regard to throwing runners out. So those things make the game fun. If you're on the right end of it and if you're a fan of it, you're going to get your money's worth.
Well, I would feel remiss if I didn't mention this. Today was the anniversary of Jackie Robinson making his major league debut, April 15th. This is an incredible day for baseball. He was a pioneer of the game in more ways than one. What are your thoughts on this, the tradition of wearing number 42 and his impact on the game and his legacy that he's left behind?
Well, maybe the most impactful player, when you think about the game of baseball, you think about Babe Ruth and what he meant to the game and putting it on a national stage. You think about Jackie Robinson and what he did, and he paved the way not just for people, African Americans, but people of Latin descent who were able to come into the game and make a huge contribution. And he made the game better for everybody. But so I don't forget it. I don't think everyone could have done what Jackie Robinson did. I mean, he took a lot of guff off of people and things when in today's game, guys push back, people push back. But he was able to maintain his dignity along with a lot of other things that really made him a special person. And again, I don't think everybody could have done it. And I think when Branch Rickey thought this was a good idea, there were other guys who probably were better than Jackie Robinson as a player, but maybe didn't have that ability to hold back, that ability to be able to understand what the big picture was all about. But Jackie was, and it probably shortened his life. I mean, he died a very young man over a lot of things that he carried. And the fact is that people don't talk about, might be one of the greatest athletes of the 20th century. There was nothing he couldn't do He's an outstanding baseball player, very good football player. He ran track and field, played basketball, and he did a lot of other things. I'll tell you this quick story. So back in the days of integration in St. Louis, they have a hotel called Chase Park Plaza. And Don Newcomb, who had just come out of the Korean War, did not want to stay at the designated African-American hotel. So he wanted a hotel room at the Chase Park Plaza. And the manager or the assistant manager said, well, we can't do it. So Don wanted to see the manager and wanted the manager to explain to him why he just came from another part of the world defending this country, why he couldn't have a room. Well, the guy was a vet and he understood where he was going with it. So he said to him, I'll make this deal with you. You can stay in the hotel, but I can't have you in a room facing the pool. And I definitely can't have you in the pool, in the swimming pool. Do we have a deal? Don Newcomb says, yeah. He says, well, what about your friend over here? And so he said, okay, I can't swim. Just like that. I can't swim. And they let it go at that. So fast forward, Don Newcomb calls Willie Mays and said, hey, Willie, guess where I'm at? And he said, well, I think you guys are in St. Louis. He said, yeah. He said, you staying at the Atlas Hotel? He said, no, we're staying at the Chase Park Plaza. Mays says, you can't stay there. They won't let you stay there. He said, no, we're here. Jackie's here. I'm here. And so he called him to tell him, he said, if you ever want to stay at the Chase Park Plaza and you're black, when they tell you can't stay, tell them you can't swim. And the reason being, Jackie Robinson would have been an All-American swimmer had he not been occupied with the other sports. So an exceptional athlete beyond words. I thank him every day for what he's meant to the game of baseball, not just African Americans, because a lot of people have had the opportunity to play this game now, and they come from all parts of the world. But Jackie Robinson was the first that got it started, and we owe him a lot.
We certainly do. And I don't even know if wearing 42 on the back of the jersey is enough of an honor, but it is tremendous to see 42 sitting amongst the Cardinal Hall of Famers, amongst all the retired jerseys at Busch Stadium. I'm sure we'll get a couple of shots of that on the TV today at 6:45 for the first pitch. But before we head off,
is that game on TV tonight?
Yeah, it should
be.
be.
Okay. Who's doing the game?
I have extra.
Who's doing the game? I'm on the radio. I don't have a chance to watch.
I think it's somebody that looks kind of like me, but worse. His hairline's receding. So
you said his hairline's doing a full retreat. Is that?
It
is.
Yeah, it's doing a wellness retreat because it's so tired of having so much gel in there. But no, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful.
You're getting cut out the will now. There won't be anything left for you.
Oh, come on, man. He's going to spend all that at Katie's tonight when he takes you guys out for dinner. Have you seen the way that man eats? Don't tell him I said that.
You know what? I've broken bread with him before, and bread is the operative word here because we both have an obsession for it. So I understand what you're saying.
You guys are carbo bros, but no,
we're a lot of things. I haven't heard that one before, Stefan, but I'm not going to argue with you on it because there may be truth to it.
Print the T-shirts, the carbo bros. But well, any final thoughts before the game tonight? I know there was a comment that is worth mentioning. It was, I forget who sent it in, but the question was, do you think this means Brendan Donovan is going to be an all-star?
Well, 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks that's a real small sample size. He's a Gold Glover. I think teams now pay more attention to him. But obviously, if he continues to swing the bat well, he'll be considered. Now, I think here's one of the big challenges here. It was a big deal to vote in your own hometown, right? I mean, you had the ballots they'd hand out at the ballpark. Now you can go online and do it. It may take a campaign to get his name out there beyond St. Louis with regard to him having a chance to be on the All-Star team. I'm not the biggest fan of how this thing works, but we've had it for God knows how long. There's got to be a better way to make sure guys like Brendan Donovan, who are having a good season, may not be recognized by all of baseball, but certainly should be part of the team, which is where I've always felt if there was a guy that was slighted, that there should be a commissioner's choice. Either if you're at the end of the trail, you've had a near Hall of Fame career, or you are a guy that maybe people aren't familiar with, but you're having a hell of a year, they should have a commissioner's choice and run him out there. Because let's face it, you probably won't use all the pitchers, and you don't want to take away from them either. So if you make the roster 27, who cares?
Right.
I mean, so that's 2 more hotel rooms for the player and his family. All right, so big deal. I mean, they throw money around like manhole covers in a lot of situations, but the one thing they don't splurge on is the All-Star game. So I would hope that there would be an opportunity for a guy like Brendan Donovan. And I'm sure, Stefan, if we go up and down the lineups around baseball, I'm sure there's another guy in another city who can make a similar case.
Oh, I'm sure that they can. And I think another way you could maybe remedy this is having a cap per division. Think about this. Think
Yeah,
about if you don't have a National League All-Star game that is inundated by only Atlanta Braves, Dodgers, Padres. Not to suggest that these people aren't deserving, but let's get the All-Stars from every team because there is definitely an
that's the way
All-Star
it used to
deserving.
be. Every team used to be represented. Now it's a real stretch to get guys involved. But if a team's getting off to a great start and you have 5 guys that are playing well, and you know what, and so be it. But I think there needs to be wiggle room on the All-Star game as far as making sure you're a representative of the game, and every team has a representative in one way, shape, or form. Now, as I said, some guys may not pitch, some guys may not play, but when it's all said and done, it's going to be one of those situations where they worked hard to get there. Hey, the lineups are out. You want to go over those real quick?
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right, let's tell you about our Cardinal lineup, brought to you by. All right, Cardinal lineup tonight is Nootbaar leading off, followed by Contreras. Brendan Donovan is going to play shortstop in the 3rd spot. Nolan Arenado is hitting cleanup. And Alec Burleson's back in the lineup. He's the designated hitter. Jordan Walker, 2 hits last night. He will be in right field, followed by Nolan Gorman at second. Pedro is behind the plate, and Michael Ciani gets a start in center field tonight.
Okay.
So it's Nootbaar, Contreras, Donovan, Arenado, Burleson, Walker, Gorman, Pages, and Ciani for the Cardinals.
I think that's a good looking lineup. You have speed top to bottom, and you have some power in places where you might not expect. A little lower in the order, Hunter Brown, I think, could find himself in a little bit of trouble with that bottom part of the order that we were talking about a little bit earlier before we even started this show. That's doing damage more so than in years prior.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, and here's why I think it's fun now, because now we know they can do it. So when they go into a slump, and they're going to run into one, okay? Nobody plays perfect every day. At least they have data. At least they have an idea of what teams are trying to do and how they can adjust. And man, if you can find out early in the game, or early in the season, I just think it's a plus, man, when you get into June and July, and certainly the dog days of August.
I'm interested in hearing what you think about this idea, this notion. The Cardinals have proven they can get it done against some of the best starters in the league. They've done it the last week and a half against Skeens, against Wheeler, Nola, Framber Valdez. How much confidence do you think that will have, and how much help do you think that will be to this young lineup moving forward and knowing, hey, we got it done against this guy, we can get it done against anyone?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's a plus knowing that you've done it and against good guys. Now, some guys might say, well, he needs to stretch out a little bit. Man, we're in the 3rd week of the season. What are you stretching out for? I mean, these guys are probably on top of the game now more than they're going to be in July. So I think it's a plus for them. As I was saying, something for them to build on should they have a roadblock somewhere. And they're going to slow down. They're going to slow down. Bats going to get heavy. Guys will trick them from time to time. But the whole mindset of now knowing how to adjust when teams start to show you something because you were hitting the other stuff too well.
They have a chance to get yet another series win against a team that many people think will be in the postseason here in 2025. Yet again, the Houston Astros, who have been as dominant as any American League team for about the last decade. So before we send it off, Claibs, I can't help but say it. I was so excited to get to work with you. You've meant so much to my family, both personally and professionally. Thanks for taking such good care of me and of my dad and everything you do for St. Louis.
Well, Stefan, you guys, you and your family are gold to me. I'm looking forward to doing this with you more. So get ready for it, and I can't wait to see you when you get back to St. Louis.
Okay, I can't wait. Let's break some bread for our entire
Well,
crew
we
this
gotta
Friday.
break the bread before your dad gets a hold of it, because if we
Oh
wait for
yeah.
him, there won't be much left.
Yep. No, there won't be any. There won't be any bread left. The Carbo Bros. But we'll have some fun, and we'll make sure to have a blast. And hopefully, the Cardinals can pull out a win tonight, starting at 6:45. It's Eric Fetty versus Hunter Brown. Astros and Cardinals. For Mike Claiborne, I'm Stefan Caray here on the STL Sports Hub, brought to you by DraftKings. This was Cardinals Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar. We'll see you another time in another place on the post game show. Hopefully, after a Cardinals win.